Auburn holds on, and Philip Yovic. Oh, my goodness.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Darrell Dapprich, Montgomery radio legend, live from Neville Arena. As we just saw, Auburn hold on against South Carolina, 71-67. Little 6-7 action. Darrell, I think there's several different ways we could go with this. Let's start with the big picture, what this game means. South Carolina, not a very good basketball team. Auburn was favored to win by a lot more than this. I think the line was 11.5 at tip, which is crazy. I thought we were texting about it a little bit earlier. Like that seemed a little crazy to me, but Auburn wins a game that they were supposed to win, even though it wasn't as pretty as it probably should have been.
Yeah, it's one of the uglier wins I've seen. It's one of those situations where should you be concerned that they won that ugly against a very poor South Carolina team, or should you be encouraged that they played poorly? They really got nothing from their best scorer until late in the game and still ended up winning the basketball game. I think the other thing I would look at from a positive, Zach, is the way Auburn defended tonight. They really, now that could be a direct, correlation between South Carolina just not being a very good basketball team and not making shots. But Auburn seemed to be guarding better, especially around the post. And at the end of the day, you never apologize for a win. I mean, it was ugly. And the 3-point shooting was about as bad as I've seen in this arena.
I mean, the team's just been so inconsistent with things. What did they shoot from three?
I think they made 2 of 20.
2 of 19. Yeah. That's crazy.
That's historically bad. I'm not
gonna
lie.
Let's highlight some of the good first, and then we'll kind of pivot into some of the concerns on, like, is this actually an issue or not? Philip Yovic was incredible. I mean, we've talked about how he was starting to put things together and then kind of got banged up a little bit. And then in his quest back to kind of being fully part of the rotation again, we're like, wow, okay. Like, he seems like a different player than he did at the start of the year. I do think tonight kind of proves that Philip Yovic is putting it together, which is great.
Well, what Auburn desperately needed early in the season was scoring on the block. Around the basket. Remember how many shots they missed? But it wasn't only the missed shots. They weren't getting anybody that was making any contested shots. The physicality on the block they were missing. The and ones, the putting it up tough, being strong. He was all that and more tonight. He scored on the block whenever he freaking wanted to. And it didn't matter who South Carolina put on him. He backed them down. He went spin move. I mean, he did all kind of different things and scored on the block. And, he's not a 3-point threat. He's not a guy that's going to even hit mid-range for you. But he was so good around the basket. And I think that's something that Auburn – and Murphy was too. And so was Sway. I mean, the dunks that Sway had. Yeah. Think about all his points were in the paint. Every one of Sebastian Williams-Adams' points were in the paint. So Auburn did a good job around the basket, and that was the biggest concern early in the year.
Yeah. All right, let's pivot to another concern. Tahad Pettiford and Keyshawn Hall combined for doing quick math here, 4 of 15 shooting. So there's 2 ways to look at that. One is, okay, you found a way to win an ugly game in SEC play with them shooting that poorly. Or, all right, like the inconsistencies here, like we just saw what Keyshawn Hall can do, not last game, but the 2 games prior. And then last game, we kind of wanted a little bit more from him. What are reasonable expectations for Keyshawn Hall at this point? And then Tahad Pettiford, I hate to say it, but this is almost who he is at this point. Like, there's clearly something missing from his game that we saw a year ago.
Todd Pettiford first. He came out and he hit his first three, and you think, okay, that's going to get him going, and then he just struggled. He struggled so much from the field. He missed so many shots. He did do a good job finding the open man and being the distributor of the basketball within the flow of the offense. Keyshawn Hall, it's just simply I jinxed him. I raved about him so much last week, and what a natural – and then that's 2 games in a row where he struggled. I think there's an injury issue, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
When they came out at halftime, he did not go into the starting lineup, even though he had 3 fouls. He had one of those massage guns, those hammers that chiropractors use.
Right.
And he had that, and he was doing it to his hamstring and his lower back for the first 6 or 7 minutes of the second half before he got inserted into the basketball game. So, I don't want to speculate, but that tells me there might be something nagging. When I was watching him warm up, he looked like he was a little ginger because I was literally 5 feet from him. So maybe there's an injury issue there that's keeping him back a little bit from explosiveness. He looks like his first step is not as explosive as it was a week ago. So perhaps –
nothing about his game right now – I know you're talking more from like this week to last week, but I'm just saying from really since the Vegas trip, he doesn't look like the same guy as a year ago, which stinks.
I was talking about Keyshawn Hall.
My bad. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, Keyshawn Hall was the one that came out in the second half and had the hammer gun on.
Well, that's important.
That's why I think. Yeah, that's why I think he looks different. That's why I think he looks different. He looks a step slower. Pettiford, you're absolutely right. He does not look like the same player, and he's missing a lot of shots. He is playing pretty good defense. I will give him credit that Tahad's not hanging his head. He's coming back with backside help, and he's blocking.
I agree with that.
So he's staying involved.
Yeah, good point. Just a poor night shooting across the board though. Tahad 2 of 8, Overton 3 of 8. Keyshawn Murphy 4 of 7, which is one of the more efficient players tonight. Probably second most efficient behind Yovic. Keyshawn 2 of 7 that we mentioned. Sway 3 of 9. Elijah Freeman 0 for 5. It was just a bad night offensively for the Auburn Tigers.
And yeah, all of Sway's points, his field goals were all dunks. All 3 were dunks. Absolute. He didn't hit any mid range. He didn't hit a 3. Right. Yeah. He hit all 3 were dunks. So yeah, a poor shooting night. All in all, I would love to look at the metrics and the analytics on South Carolina and what their defensive statistics are. Maybe they're they look like they got into Auburn a little bit defensively. They look like they had to fight for every shot. They may be very, very poor on offense, but maybe they play, pretty good defense under their coach, who's known for a defensive coach. So I don't know. I don't have the metrics in front of me, but that was one of the that first half set back college basketball 50 years offensively. It was just – yeah. I saw upward games. I want to say this too. This is not going to be popular, but it needs to be said.
Okay.
For years now, Auburn has kind of fancied itself as a basketball school. Been to 2 Final Fours in 5 years, 1 titles. I was extremely disappointed with all the empty seats that were in here tonight. Now, it did fill up a little bit, but I just still feel like there was too many empty seats for a 5 o'clock tip on a Saturday in a conference game. And if you want to be a basketball school, then act like it. You're not going to see that at Duke or Michigan State or Kansas or any of these other schools that are, very, very Gonzaga, that are avid about basketball. You have to come even when your team's 1-3, and it's a little bit concerning. Now, the ones that were here were loud and into the game, and of course the jungle is always going to be the jungle.
Yeah.
But I looked on Game Time before the game, and there was a lot of seats for sale that were really, really expensive. Okay, well, give your seats up then so that someone can come and they can fill up. I'll get off my soapbox, but that was a little bit disappointing.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about culture just with different parts of Auburn athletics. That's a culture that Bruce Pearl built. Auburn basketball, now Steve is trying to keep that going. That's something where, as a fan base, we want to keep that culture going. You can't have empty seats at a 5 o'clock game on a Saturday. You can't do it.
No, and I don't know, what the percentage field was, but if it's not at least 97, 98%, That's a letdown. You've come off a Final Four. You've established a tradition here. Get here. Now, the jungle, like I said, was loud. And then a couple times when Auburn really needed a defensive stop, this place came to life.
Yeah.
But I just saw too much orange.
So a question that I want to tackle, and live chat, you guys respond to this as well during this read that's coming up. Sure, it's a win. Does this performance make you feel better or worse about the next part of Auburn's schedule, which is about to get tougher? We discuss in just a moment, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. Check out FanDuel for the national championship game, which will be Monday night, which is obviously super, super exciting. Indiana, an 8.5-point favorite in the national championship game. That seems like a lot, but I think I would still take Indiana to cover. You're nodding. I think you would too. Yeah. And Miami's got a good defense. But we'll see what happens. FanDuel's the best place to get in on the action all playoff long. So visit FanDuel.com to get your college football playoff profit boost there every single game day. Once again, that's at FanDuel.com. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Auburn wins 71-67 over South Carolina. Darrell, despite Auburn winning, ugly win, this performance makes me feel worse about the upcoming SEC slate. Seems like a lot of the chat. Okay, it's actually pretty mixed. It's more mixed than I thought. Which way do you kind of lean on this? Do you feel better, worse, or I guess opinion unchanged? Unchanged.
Because I see both sides of the coin on this. I see a reason to be concerned because of this performance, but then I flip that coin and I say they played not well at all offensively. They got nothing from their two best offensive players, and they still won. So sometimes when you don't play particularly well and it's not your night and you just don't have it and you still come out with a W, I don't know, that could be a little bit encouraging because I cannot see them having two performances like this in a row. That's one thing about this basketball team now. Think about it. I don't know how many times. I don't think they've lost two games. Yeah, they did to start the SEC season. It's the only time they lost two games in a row. But technically they won. So, they usually we talked about it being a roller coaster, and that's exactly what it is. It's Jekyll and Hyde. So they won tonight playing poor, but they won because they guarded really, really well and they rebounded pretty well. Even though I don't think they won the battle of the boards. I think South Carolina ended up nipping them barely. But
39-35 South Carolina.
Yeah. So that's another thing you get beat on the boards. You get absolutely trampled with made threes. I think South Carolina made 4 or 5 more than Auburn. Auburn had more field goals, more points in the paint, probably more free throws made, and they just muddied up and blue-collared an ugly win.
The biggest stat differential in Auburn's favor was points in the paint. Auburn had 42, South Carolina 26. That's the difference maker.
That's why they won the game. And that's what's frustrating is you have that advantage in the paint and you shoot 23s and you keep shooting. You're like, look, you're getting what you want on the block. Quit. It's not like they forced Auburn to shoot threes because they were collapsing on the block. Auburn was getting what they wanted down low. Just keep going there. Keep, and they still kept shooting threes. That's a concern. That's a lack of discipline or awareness or basketball IQ.
Yeah, and that's where I wonder, for all there's a lot of differing opinions on Stephen Pearl and his job, but that's where I think a coach needs to come in and say, hey, we are dominating them around the basket. Let's keep doing that. It's not our night shooting. That's okay. We'll look at film. We'll look at y'all's form and shooting and all that stuff to see if there's something that's a little bit off. We'll handle that later, but let's win the basketball game. And we do that by dominating down low. And I just don't understand why that's not, discussed and executed.
I'm giddy that you asked that question. I am so glad you made that point because go back and look, in the biggest complaint I ever had about Bruce Pearl and his coach teams where there would be lives that we would do after the game. We would go, for the love of God, why did Auburn keep shooting threes when they were getting what they wanted inside? They did the exact same thing under Bruce.
Right.
And Bruce would go, keep shooting. Remember, he never put him on a leash. He just kept letting him shoot it, shoot your way out of it. That's just the culture. And, you know, even if you're getting what you want inside, it's so frustrating. And it would frustrate me with Bruce Pearl coach teams too. They would go 3 of 23 from 3 and shoot 60% everywhere else on the floor and keep shooting threes.
Yeah, you're right.
And I would be like, what are they, you know, that was one of my only criticisms I had. So that's like they do that regardless.
Yeah, that's true. All right, so let's look ahead now. It does get tougher. It does get tougher here. So Auburn's next 5, they go to Ole Miss on Tuesday, 8:00 game on the road. They go to Florida, who won a nail biter against Vandy. That game was crazy. This upcoming Saturday. Next Wednesday, they host Texas, and then they go to Tennessee. And then they host Alabama. That's 5, right? Yeah. That's a tough stretch.
Yeah, I mean,
That's tough.
I think they get the Ole Miss and Texas games. I think they win those. I think they lose at Tennessee and at Florida, and then I think they beat Alabama here at home.
So you're saying 3 and 2?
I am.
Ole Miss is one of those teams where I just don't know how good they are.
I felt like Auburn could win 3 out of their next 4 after losing to Missouri, and that's 1 down, 2 to go. I will say this: if they don't split these next 4, if they don't win 2 of these next 4, I think their NCAA tournament hopes are dashed.
If they say that again, if they don't win 2 of their next 4,
if they don't split and win 2 of their next 4, I think their NCAA tournament hopes are really take a hit.
So at Ole Miss, at Florida, Texas at home, at Tennessee.
Yep.
I have to guess right now, I don't think they win 2 of those games.
Yeah.
The 2 most winnable are at Ole Miss and Texas at home, obviously, of course. Can you win both of those? Because then, I mean, even after that, I mean, this is probably why you're saying that, obviously, but you host Alabama, you host Vandy, you go to Arkansas, you know they're going to want to get revenge. At Mississippi State, which admittedly I have not watched this year. You host Kentucky, which might be more winnable than we realize. And then at Oklahoma, I think they're okay. You host Ole Miss. Yeah, I mean, it's just a
well, and the Tennessee game is a real wild card for me because Tennessee should have gotten beaten by Texas A&M. Texas A&M had them beat at home on the road, and then Kentucky came back and beat them today,
right,
in Tennessee. So they should have lost 2 in a row in Knoxville. So maybe that game's not such a big hill to climb, right? Just writing that off as a loss.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, it seems like the SEC is really going to beat itself up this year. I just wonder. I wonder what the bracketologist's opinion of these tier 2/tier 3 teams in the SEC. I wonder what that opinion is going to be if they all beat each other up this year. That's kind of what's happening. So
yeah, and I think the other thing is if Yovic does emerge as that third guy, as that third scorer that can get you 13 or 14 a night, then you become an extremely different, dangerous basketball team if Tahad and Keyshawn Hall hold up their end of the bargain.
So, well, I mean, so we've had this conversation a few times, right? Who's the third guy? We've talked about it with Kevin Overton. We've talked about it with Freeman, right? Mm-hmm. Now we're having the conversation with Yovic. I'm not convinced the conversation needs to be who's the number 2 guy at this point.
Well, I'm just looking at season averages. You know, Hall dropped about 19 today. Pettiford's around 14. So let's just say that over the course of the game,
that number's got to be way lower if you just look at conference play, right? For Tahad.
Yeah, I would think
probably
so.
About the same for Keyshawn, but
for
Tahad, it's got to be way lower than that.
That's true. It's trending downward. There's no doubt.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if someone's there to pick up the slack, if Freeman and Overton and Yovic can kind of get 10 or 12 apiece, and Murphy, who's been coming on, I think they're fine. I just think they have to get more. Their stars have to be stars in big games. Tonight, it didn't hurt them because it wasn't a formidable opponent. It will be. You'll have to have them against the good teams.
Yeah. Darrell, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
Well, I will be on the Barncast tomorrow night with you and Kyle Rush.
I think it's just you and me on that.
That is me and you, because your playoff game will be over and New England will be victorious.
I hope.
Because
Bo Nix, they're playing against Bo Nix and Jarrett Stidham.
Yeah. No, if they win.
Yeah.
They got to beat the Texans first, too. I hope they just.
Yeah, but congrats to Bo and Jarrett. That's awesome.
Yeah.
2 Auburn quarterbacks already in the championship round.
Yes. Former, yeah. Well, I have a whole another theory on that about pulling for Bo Nix, but I'm just going to leave that alone.
Okay.
So then we've got Wednesdays and Fridays, little Locked On Auburn action that drops like normal where you get your podcast. And then you said Auburn plays Wednesday night or Tuesday night against Ole Miss?
Tuesday at 8.
Yeah. And then we'll be doing the live Tuesday at 8. Tuesday at 10:30, actually. It's a late one.
It'll be a late one, but we'll be up with all of y'all for sure.
Get your coffee and join us.
That's right. Auburn takes down South Carolina 71-67. Please like the video. Please subscribe if you're tuned in on audio. Please subscribe and leave us a review. Helps the show out a ton. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.